Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to wake the world up to what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the most amazing authors of a new book that we have coming out. It's called Wealth Codes: Sacred Strategies for Abundance. Jen Pisano, girl, thank you. Thank you for leading this project, for bringing together such an amazing cast of author experts who are ready to talk about wealth and abundance in a much more expanded way. So our book is broken into categories. Money is just one of the ways you can be wealthy and abundant, right? Relationships, freedom, vitality, and spirituality are also in this book. And I cannot wait to introduce you to the three powerful women I have here with me today who are going to share about this. So, galactic psychic medium Holly Renee is here to serve the healer in navigating this earthly realm through advanced psychic development and embodying their mission. Wanda Tucker's insight, intuition, and expertise at cutting through the BS to get to the heart of issues draws people to her on their path toward wholeness. And Stephanie Zito is an expert intuitive who helps clients ditch overthinking and overwhelm so they can step into their true power and manifest the life they desire. Holy crap, y'all. Do you understand the power of the people in my Zoom room today? I mean, something's going to light on fire behind me. I'm going to check. Okay. All right. So, Holly, you're going to start the party off today. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
Hi, how are you, by the way?
Oh, I am super good. Thanks for
Good,
being here.
good. So my chapter is chapter 23, and it's about embodying the healer within and balancing the realms. And I do a lot of work in the higher realms, like I like to call it. And so I talk about the importance of being connected in that way, but also remembering the human and really connecting in and balancing the two, because it's fun to be in the higher realms. It's fun to connect, especially as healers, and to be able to express the things of what does it mean to channel and connect to galactic beings and the angelic and all of that. And I also think that sometimes we forget and kind of neglect the human sometimes as well. So it's a reminder of how can we be tapped into the higher realms, but also still embody being human in this earth that we live in.
You know, it's super important for all of us who are experiencing things maybe that our inner circle of people aren't. And, occasionally I feel a little bit off in this alien world when I am connecting like that. And we don't have a whole lot of people to talk to about those things we're experiencing. And you're a perfect example of that. How would you help somebody who is having a struggle about that?
Well, I think that one of the things is being able to recognize what's going on. I think that's one of the biggest things is a lot of people don't even understand what it means when they are like shifting consciousness or deep in meditation and moving through the higher realms, and that it's possible here. And so I think just being first awareness, right, and being able to recognize the connections that you're making, and also just being able to tap into, okay, how is my body feeling? How is it reacting as I'm connecting and bringing in that grounding of the human.
We talked about in an interview before you guys about the embodiment and being in your body, this piece of the puzzle being so foundational, according to Laura. But I love how all of you are talking about that because that is what brings us back in. It brings us back into the human that is having the experience with whatever is in front of them, right? Being in your body is so important. And here we are giving these gifts of awareness. You are all giving such big gifts in your chapters of different levels and ways we can be aware. And that is the journey to wealth and abundance. What else do you want to say about that, Holly?
You know, I think that just in general, being able to kind of, when we talk about embodiment, but also just being able to sink into that, of like how we can find the richness in our connection to the spiritual realm, but also the richness of understanding that when we're embodied in that, it's like it just levels up that deeper connection, because when you're consciously aware of the higher realms, it's just a game changer. It really is.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, you guys, stay tuned for more from Holly. I'm going to move over to Wanda now. Wanda, tell us about your amazing chapter.
I am lucky chapter 13.
All right.
Yeah, love it. And my title is come out, whoever you are. I'm in the freedom section, and the subtitle is Your Whole Self is the Path to Freedom and Abundance. And in this chapter, I kind of model being my whole self. And I come out as I didn't ask if I could say the word, but I come out as a fucking shaman. And I am stepping into that role far more than I have in the past. I've been, pretty traditional psychotherapist for the majority of my career. I'm also a massage therapist, so I'm very aware of the importance of embodiment. But there's just so much more. And even though I haven't um, come out with my intuition and other levels of work that I do in the past, I'm doing that more now because, it's like it's always been there. I need to bring it forth in order to let people see what's possible. And I talked about using the Enneagram, which is an ancient tool of spiritual awareness, self awareness, as a very important tool and path that I have used in my own life and I use with people that I work with to really understand oneself. What are the challenges? What are the possibilities? What do you need to pay attention to so that you can be all of who you are? I believe that we are here to be fully human and fully divine.
Well, thank goodness you're coming out with all of your amazing gifts. I did laugh out loud when I got to the fucking shaman line in your chapter. I'm like, yeah, I could even see the fist pump as you write it. Like, yes, this is who I am. But listen, you just talked about being having a traditional psychotherapy background, having massage therapist background, having a shamanic healer in you, and the gifts that you've been given are what make you stand out in traditional therapies. They are the
Right.
way that people get even more magical gifts from you and their own breakthroughs. And so thank goodness you're at that point. What else do you want to say about that?
Oh man, I don't even know what to say at this point. I mean, it's a really exciting journey, and I think it's important for a lot of people to know that that's there, that I'm not just a traditional psychotherapist, that when they bring their stuff to me, that I'm going to be looking at it from all of these different angles, that we're going to be looking at who they are spiritually, who they are as an embodied being. I'll help them with, whatever challenges they're facing in this physical realm, because we all have them. And there's so much more than that, that we can move beyond it. They don't have to be going through a divorce or feeling depressed to come and see me. They can come and see me and say, "Hey, I know that what you see before you and how I have expressed that so far isn't all of who I am. Help me find a path forward." And I will walk with people through whatever they've got. I'm not afraid of the darkness. As I mentioned before, I'm pretty good at cutting through the bullshit and being able to see what's going on behind the scenes and help them see some of the patterns that have kept them stuck.
I love it. You said their stuff, and I had to chuckle at, we all have our stuff, but some of the best sessions I've had with amazing healers have been sessions where I went to them and said, I've done a lot of things to deal with my stuff. and I am ready to play. Show me what I don't know yet,
Right.
and let me have another kind of experience. Like, how fun is that, right? I think a lot of healers are kind of dabblers, and they're explorers, and they're, they want to know what's possible. So I love that. And Wanda, it sounds like you're one of those people who, can take us to another level. Thank you for that.
Yeah. One of my favorite, well, let me say that differently. Some of my best sessions with people are when they walk in and say, I don't know what to talk about today.
Yeah.
Like, great, let's see what happens.
Awesome. All right, then no more excuses, everybody who's listening. If you don't know what to talk about, it doesn't matter. We're going to take you wherever anyway on your adventure. All right, Stephanie, you are next up on this. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
Hi. So my chapter is called Vision Casting. You had the power all along. Channel Right Your Way to Limitlessness. And I wrote this because of really going through my own journey with being in a place of overwhelm, indecision, knowing what my intuition was trying to tell me, but ignoring it because I just was afraid of just the unknown of what was on the other side, to the point that it led me to even be in a car accident, and even that not being enough of a wake-up call. And so I have this quote in my chapter, which is, you can make all the money in the world and be miserable, but actual wealth is the freedom to live guided by your truth. And I really recognize that the sort of jail that I put myself in because of what I thought society was telling me I needed, or what I thought was sort of what I needed. And so in this journey that I bring in, I'm really kind of coming from the heart from myself, and also in my own wake up call to my intuition, recognizing how we are so supported. And when we allow ourselves that grace of bringing in that channel of support, and this tool that I offer, which is called channel writing, there's so much more available to us. In my own journey, it was almost like I quantum leapt. It was like this luge that brought me into the life I really desired. When I let that clarity in, and I was able to kind of see that fear, but to move forward anyway with that grace, and just see these little nuggets of support, and looking back, seeing these little nuggets of support that were there all along. And it's led me into this whole other embracing of myself in ways I never even realized. It's like layers of really being true to who I am, being an intuitive, having this be my world, the way I make my money, the way I help people, not really hiding this in little pockets, or being afraid of, what someone thinks, recognizing how that is their reflection of their world. And it just, talk about freedom. I mean, if you know that feeling, you understand, like, you'll never give it up. There's nothing anyone could say or do to have you give that up when you're feeling that. And that's, my hope is to help others who may be saying, oh, I feel like that's my intuition, but how do I know that's it? I hear that a lot. How do I trust it? Just to get a little bit closer, get those closer steps towards really embracing it and letting that be their guide daily.
Yeah, you said a couple of things. So first of all, the funny one was the luge. Man, it feels like that sometimes, doesn't it? Like you are going, whether you like it or not. But you're right, you will never go back once you taste the awareness that brings you into that space of freedom. Not only is that a wonderful thought, but it's a physical feeling of
Yes, we embody it.
freedom.
Yeah.
Yes.
It doesn't
And
matter if you're starting out as an entrepreneur or you're a CEO for many years. You could be at any level to embrace that.
yes, and the other thing that you said about following your truth and making sure you understand what that is for you. This came up in one of our other interviews in terms of even understanding what your own desires are. Anything else you want to
Yes.
say about that?
Definitely. So I think it's really important to recognize, like, why am I wearing this right now? I would not be wearing this back in the 1800s. Why do I listen to the music I listen to? It's because of what's being given to me, and I like it. And yet, we are uniquely created. It's like we come from this vast source, It's like our soul is this vast energy, and we get to just be this one beautiful expression in this lifetime that gets dropped into the year 2022 with this culture and this way of being. And so when we kind of take away that layer of culture, take away the layer of what our parents told us and how we may have been raised, and we come into like me, my consciousness, my expression, not what my parents said or our generations told us, and not what my neighbors down the street think is important, but what really matters to me, then like it's just like a dolphin is a dolphin. It's not trying to be a bear or an otter. Like we get to be that. We're meant to be that. Like soul source is expressing itself uniquely through us. And when we embrace that, like to me, that's the most intimate love we can experience. I am not in love with myself when I am trying to please those around me or fit in with those around me. If I were wearing 18th century garb right now because I love it, then awesome. I love 18th century garb, you know? So, I mean, that's kind of just again, I think of like that jail we don't even recognize we may be putting around ourselves, even when it comes to what we own and what it looks like, how we're succeeding to those around us. What if success to you is living in your little van and living, waking up every day in a beautiful place, right?
Yes. Okay. So this is so perfect because it's going to help me slide into this next question for all of you. And Wanda, I'm going to start with you for this one. When we think about wealth and abundance, many people instantly think about money, but you all know wealth is so much more than that. So tell me why it's important to redefine this.
Wow. Yeah, it's a jail, to play off what Steph was just saying. It's if we only see wealth as money and material around us, we miss so many opportunities. We miss the full expression of who we are. We miss participating in the full expression and co-creation with everybody else. And yes, money is great. I mean, I took a course many years ago from a spiritual teacher who was saying there's nothing wrong with money. Having a lot of it allows us to do many good things, and it allows us to really focus on our spiritual growth. So it's not that money is bad. It's not that we shouldn't have it or we should give it all away, although giving is important. It is simply a tool to help us with the full expression of who we are. And as I already said, feel like we're here to be fully human and fully divine. The money helps with the human part and gives us space to really work on developing our spiritual selves.
Yes, I love thinking about that money as a tool. And in a minute or two, I'm going to talk to you all more about the energy, which is, something that's important in terms of this whole
Well,
topic.
it's simply an embodiment of energy. I mean, if I put effort, I spend time with someone in my office or my Zoom room, as the case may be, and they give back to me in money. It's an energy exchange. They are returning to me what I have given to them. So it's not a one-way street. It's about keeping the cycle going.
Yes, keeping the cycle going. It's about the flow. Yes,
The
yes,
flow,
yes, Wanda.
absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, Stephanie, what do you want to add to this in terms of like why is it important to redefine wealth and abundance?
So I'm so glad you asked this question. I go back to looking beyond the layers. And if I look at how our society is created, I think of like a tower, like a tier. And I think of how it's been created such that there's sort of power above, right? And then there's those who are sort of looking towards reaching that, right? And so in that, it's like a differential of power. And what I like to look at it as is like we're like this circle. So if there is equality amongst all of us, if we're all in our intuition, if we're all following our path, then we literally are all equal, right? And so as we're looking at that idea of money, I think it's sort of taking away the feeling of like, am I in my power if I'm in a place where, let's say I do want to have more abundance monetarily. I get to have that and I can create that. There may be some blocks along the way as you talk about being in the channel, being in the flow that I can help release. And I get to be there. And yet I can also question, because I've seen people get to this place where they've made a certain amount and they're still not happy. It's because that wasn't the point all along. The point was recognition. Maybe they didn't get it from their father when they were a young child. And if we can heal that wound, then the money part becomes irrelevant because that energy isn't attached to worth. It's not, my worth isn't attached to my money. And so I can earn that money freely because I want that certain amount. I want this certain lifestyle. And yet, if I detach from that and I heal that father wound, for example, then maybe I'm super happy making, I don't know, 10 grand a year or whatever, and living out of my van. So that's kind of the one, the one piece I feel is really, really important is just to sort of like separate out, what does this money mean to me? What kind of relationship am I in with money? And to the point of the channel, also recognizing that just like source, just like everything, when we allow the energy to flow through us, when we allow ourselves to receive and let it flow through us, so we are receiving and we're giving. That's literally how energy wishes to flow anyway. Any kind of block, right, is just going to be like a stopping point for that flow to occur.
Yeah, one of my mentors says every single money problem is a circulation problem. You know, your money problems, the solution is circulation and flow, which I love. And I also had another mentor say money issues at their foundation are worthiness issues. And so, like, when you start to link up some of these things and you hear Stephanie talk about healing a childhood wound, and you heard Wanda talk about being, a traditional psychotherapist and dealing with what those things are, those can then become adulthood money blocks. And you're sitting around thinking, man, why am I having so much trouble with this bank account? And really, you haven't dealt with the foundational things, that if you do, that's my whole question of like, what else is possible? There's some exciting things to talk about here. Holly, what do you want to add to this about redefining wealth and abundance?
Well, I actually personally have been working with a wealth consciousness mentor for about a year now. And the thing that I've learned the most about it is that money is just a byproduct of what's going on in your reality. And for someone who I feel one of my big life lessons is working on worthiness and not that correlation between the bank account and power, that kind of stuff. I found my deeper connection through my spiritual connection. And when I tapped in and understood that I am that divine connection or that I am that limitless supply, it changed the entire idea of what wealth and abundant life even meant to me. Because when I can wake up in the morning and ask the divine, right, like, how can you have me serve, and who am I serving, and be able to walk through the day in that deep connection, that has changed the way that I've made money and my mission and the way that I kind of move forward. And so when it comes to redefining that, for me personally, knowing that I have that stability in self and not the stability in that money or in that belief around money and all of those things, and the stability in the divine, it's changed the way that I just live my life every day. I was someone who was anxious all the time, and money was one of my biggest worry triggers. And so when I began to regulate my nervous system and get on board with where that was really stemming from and connecting to my spiritual team, it allowed me to be able to see that money doesn't equate happiness, right? Like, of course, it's great. It's a fun little dopamine hit here and there, but it's that deep connection to self and also to the divine that has really brought me um the happiness and the joy. That it's like the long-term joy, you know?
Yes, I do
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I know, girl, I know. It's the
Yes.
best. So
Yes.
another word you used was stability. You're talking about the stability
Mm.
feeling, and I was thinking, oh, that's a feeling. stability is an idea when you feel stable in your life financially or any other ways, relationship wise, all of our categories in the book, right? But that also has a feeling in my body. The stability is grounded and centered and strong for me. That's how I feel it. So I love that you're helping people to feel it, which is part of it.
Totally. Yeah. And that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing about like embodying the human. And then, we understand it in the higher realms of like, okay, why do I feel this way? Why do I have these beliefs? But then it's also like, how does the body handle these triggers or these things as well? Because that is like one of the biggest things.
Yes. All right. So, gosh, I love listening to you all talk about this. And then from your perspective and your master teachings, right? And these books are so full of these beautiful gifts of awareness that you have all given in your chapters. So, thank you so much. Thank you for saying yes to this particular project and being brave enough to talk about all of it, money included, because that can be such a taboo subject for people. They feel such shame. They were told you don't talk about stuff like that, when they were kids. I know I was. Or it may have not been said directly, but you definitely knew, what was supposed to be a secret and what you weren't supposed to share with your friends and how you were supposed to show up in the world in terms of these topics. So thank you all for sharing such vulnerable, beautiful, brave stories, and then also stepping up with these strategies. And many, but probably all of the strategies are going to touch on the idea that when we embrace the fact that everything is energy, and this isn't, you can't see it, so it's hard to grasp sometimes. But when we embrace that idea, and everything is energy, money is energy, our relationships have to do with energy, we have to embrace this more holistic approach to healing, including the healing that creates abundance and wealth. So, Stephanie, for you, why must we deal with this holistically? Why holistic?
I feel like the word that comes to mind is suffering. So if you feel like you are suffering in some way, if it's in your body physically, if it's inflammation, if it's in your relationship, if it's wherever it might be, if it is with money, then let's go ahead and look to the roots, right? Let's look at that roots of that energetic connection with suffering so that we can release that, because I really do believe that our sovereign power birthright is the sense of freedom. We get to have the sense of freedom. And in fact, our journey here in this earth school is finding that. It is finding that embracing of self-love. It is embracing that sense of freedom that really is available to all of us.
Yeah, I wanted you to continue. I'm like, yes, talk more, talk more.
Thank you.
Yeah, the self-love, and that's an energy you give yourself, and you be in it, and you then laser beam it out to the people around you, and it matters, right? We could get into a whole discussion that would last for the next 3 days about the high vibration of that. And that's,
Mhm.
that is very, very
Mm.
amazing. Okay, Holly, what do you want to add to this in terms of holistic approach?
Well, I think that this is where I'm going back to my chapter of like the balancing, because I always talk about the light body and how we have the four different body models, the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And what can happen is when we get so caught up in the mental body and we feel those emotions so physically, and then our body has this response, it's difficult to really connect into the spiritual. And so when we can learn how to really tame those frequencies or those vibrations and kind of clear the channel, it allows for this deeper connection and understanding of what is it that's going on here. And so when I think about like emotion or energy and approaching it in that way, it's how can I get my body on board? How can I get my energy body in a place that's open to receiving the guidance and information to then, create that response that serves our highest good.
Okay, help me out here because you're making me think of the time, I don't know, like 15, 20 years ago, whenever the new Earth came out. And
Mhm.
Eckhart Tolle started to talk about the pain body, and he started to combine body with other words. And you just did it too, the spirit body, the four bodies. I want you to tell me, like I'm a fifth grader, what are you talking about?
Okay, it's actually kind of funny because in my classes, I'm kind of known for having this like stick figure drawing. I'll save you the beautiful picture today, but it really is like a fifth grader because I want you to imagine like a stick figure, and then outside of that is a circle, right? So the stick figure is the physical body. Outside of that is the energetic body, which is where we feel those emotions, and we can feel them physically, but it's where like, okay, I'm experiencing fear, right? And things like that. Outside of that space is the mental, and that's where our thoughts are, our ego. And then outside of that is the spiritual, and that is where we have our connection to the higher realms, connection to our higher self. That's where our spiritual team lives. And what happens is we kind of have to break through all of those barriers to get to that connection. And really, it's like levels and layers of like a third eye, right? And people a lot of times will say, "Oh, my third eye is blocked," when in reality, it's just not being able to quite see past what's going on in the physical. So these layers outside of us have to be attended to. They have to be for us to fully be able to kind of move forward, and the chakra system lies in the emotional body. And so it's being able to identify with each of these things and knowing which one needs the attention at the time. And when we talk about healing, when it comes to wealth or healing in general, we have to look at all these different realms of possibility. So it's not just the physical, but it's also the emotional, it's also the mental, and also our deep connection to the spiritual. And that's why people sometimes have a difficult time connecting, because there's these layers that we have to kind of move through before we can really hear that deeper connection. Is that explaining?
That's great. I mean, I get it. I just want people who
Yeah.
are listening. Sometimes I feel like these interviews, these authors, these books, where our role is to be that bridge in the language that wakes
Right.
them up to the possibility. And I want to follow up with something that you said. You said, well, we have to connect with all of them. Well, we don't have to. The problem is, or here, let's switch that, the massive opportunity that exists when you realize what's possible about what Holly just said. That's what I want you guys to get excited about. So we'll leave it there because we could be here 3 more days about this one, right?
Yes.
Wanda, you're going to actually close us out today. Tell us about why holistic.
When you asked that question, my first response was, well, duh.
Yes.
It's like, how can we not be holistic about it? As I was listening to Steph and Holly, what was coming to my mind, they did a beautiful job of talking about it from the inside out, and talking about who we are as spiritual beings in these bodies, which is absolutely, I totally agree. And even then, as Holly expanded on that, was talking about the different levels of body that each of us has, it then takes me into, and we are all one and all connected through those layers of bodies that we have. And if we're not holistic in our approach, we miss out on that opportunity for connection and abundance and healing, not only on the personal level, which, hey, I'm all for it. I still, even at my ripe old age, I still have healing that needs to happen in some places. And the planet, the cultures that we live in, the rifts among all of the different isms and the different colors and the genders, and it's just not who we are created to be. So if we take a holistic approach, and I see that I am this whole being, and all of these different layers of my body contribute to wealth, I can see it then also in each one of you and each person that I come across as I go through my day. And it's the only path to healing and abundance, not just for me, which I'm all for, not just for each one of you, yay, go you, but for everyone. And we can't afford not to take care of each other.
Yeah, what a beautiful way to wrap up today. It is the only path, this holistic path to really authentic healing and abundance. I'll put that word authentic or true or deeper, right? We all have these words and we want to label things, but whatever that means to you, that's a path that can help you feel your purpose for being born. It can help you feel why you're here and what this whole crazy journey is about. Authors, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone. Thank you, ladies.
And
Thank
thanks for the
you.
opportunity, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So, for all of our listeners, I know you heard something today that's making you tingle, that's making you buzz, that you're resonating with. Please drop down into our show notes. I have these amazing author experts hooked up with their websites there, and they're very generously there for you for support, to answer a question, to talk about something you heard today. And it's time to take this a step further, right? So explore and find out about all of the amazing things that they are up to. They're ready to help you on your journey with that next step. And if you're ready to join us for our live stream book launch party, it's going to be on August 26th at 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to be on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page for that party with all of our authors from Wealth Codes, Sacred Strategies for Abundance. I can't wait for the party. But if you're listening to this after that date, well, that means you should hop on over to Amazon and grab that copy of the book and start your journey there. Lastly, today, everybody remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. It's time to be brave. See you next time, everyone. Thank you, ladies.